On December 13th, 2009, 30-year-old Stephen Koecher parked in a cul-de-sac at 11:54 a.m. in an upscale retirement neighborhood in Henderson, Nevada. Stephen was last seen on a neighbor's surveillance camera walking up Evening Light Street at 12 p.m., and he was never seen again. For over a decade, many of the details of his disappearance have been shrouded in secrecy by the Henderson Police Department. But all that changed in December of 2020, when details of his case were released to the public for the first time. Thank you so much for those of you who watched my first video, the Stephen Koecher Case Update 2020. I received almost unanimous positive feedback from that video, which has encouraged me to continue making these videos for you. In this chapter 2 of the Stephen Koecher Case Update, I want to first and foremost go back and correct some of the errors that I made in the previous video. I misspoke about a few things. I want to make sure that I get those corrected in this video. So one of the errors that I want to correct from the previous video is my statements that Mark Philip DiMaggio was living in the back house at the 2260 Evening Lights address. This is absolutely false. Mark Philip DiMaggio was living in the casita, or little house, as it's translated to English, which is actually located in the front of the house. Everything else that I stated about 2260 Evening Lights in regards to the square footage of the casita, the bedrooms, etc., is completely accurate. The only mistake was the actual location of this little house itself. The fact that this little house is in the front rather than the back makes it even more impossible that Mark Philip DiMaggio did not see the notice that was left on his front door or the police cards that were left on his front door. As the casita, the front door to the casita, when it opens, you're staring directly at the front door of the 2260 Evening Lights house. So Mark DiMaggio's white Dodge van is located in the driveway when the police arrive on a few occasions. If he's there in that casita, which faces the front door, why isn't he answering? Another thing that I want to correct from the previous video, when I was talking about the ping list that has been going around the internet for years, I stated that this was originally posted on Facebook. It was brought to my attention by someone on the Stephen Koecher discussion page on Facebook that this actually was first posted on WebSleuth. The last correction that I want to make to the previous video is just a name pronunciation. In the previous video, I stated that Brett Bishop's boss at the pharmacy, I stated his name is Mark Patay. It's actually pronounced Mark Patey. Alright, so in my first video, I omitted a few things that are listed in the police report. I'm just going to go over those right now. The biggest thing that I omitted were the numerous sightings of Stephen after his disappearance there on Evening Lights. And the reason I omitted these from the original video is because I don't put a lot of faith in these witness sightings of Stephen in the months and years after he's been missing. So just for the sake of objectivity and the fact that these sightings are listed in the police report that was recently released, I'm going to include them now. I'm not saying that the people that believe they saw him are lying. I just think they're mistaken. Stephen was about average height for an American. He had blonde hair, blue eyes. In Utah and in Nevada, there's just tons of people matching that description. And what's important here is that every single tip that came in to the Henderson police and to the St. George police, they followed these tips. They followed them to levels that me personally, I wouldn't. And they didn't find anything. So on February 7th, 2010, a man named John Rigg contacted the Henderson Police Department stating that he thinks he saw Stephen Koecher at the Best Buy located at 6455 North Decatur in Las Vegas. Rigg stated that between 2 and 3 p.m. a white male that looked like Stephen approached him in the parking lot at a Best Buy and asked him for help buying a ticket back to Utah. This male told Rigg what city in Utah he's originally from, but Riggs doesn't recall later on when the police asked him. Riggs stated that he handed the male $40 and the male followed after Riggs after he handed him the money and was curious as to why Riggs would give him the money. Riggs told him that he just wanted to help him out and to pay it forward in the future. The police contacted the Best Buy and asked for the surveillance footage, which Best Buy did turn over to them. They reviewed the surveillance footage and they didn't see anything on any of the surveillance cameras that resembled anyone looking like Stephen Koecher. They also questioned some of the people that worked there at Best Buy, and no one at the Best Buy, when shown pictures of Stephen Koecher, recall ever seeing anyone that resembled Stephen Koecher coming into the Best Buy that day or milling about out front of the Best Buy. All right, the next sighting comes on February 10th of 2010. An anonymous caller called HPD stating that they saw someone who looked like Stephen in the parking lot at a Home Depot located at 1275 West Craig Road in North Las Vegas. Police investigated this sighting and they didn't find anything. On February 26, 2010, an anonymous caller stated that they saw someone who looked like Stephen at around 5 p.m. walking quickly on Spencer and Flamingo near the Business Park Mall. They stated that this male appeared disorientated, and the police went out and investigated this one as well, and again, nothing came of it. On February 27, 2010, an anonymous caller stated that they saw someone who looked like Stephen at around 7 p.m. at the Sahara Casino. This was a white male, blonde hair, blue eyes, and the caller stated that this person had an Australian accent. So yeah, the police went out to Sahara and they questioned the staff. Nothing ever came of it. All right, so next up here, on April 14, 2010, a caller named Angela stated that a friend of hers has seen Stephen in the Henderson area, somewhere around the Las Vegas Boulevard, south of St. Rose Parkway. This guy was seen near the old auction place by some heavy equipment and trees. This Stephen guy reportedly bragged to Angela's friend about being the guy from the milk carton and that he was driving around in a maroon colored F-150 circa 1990s. They didn't get the license plate number. And they stated that the Stephen guy had shorter hair from the picture and that he was going to Big Bear, California for the weekend for a barbecue. Believe it or not, the police actually believed this Angela's person's story. She stated that this was a positive sighting of Stephen. She knew 100% that this had to be the guy from the milk carton. So the police went out to the St. Rose Parkway area. They looked around, they didn't find anything. And then Angela calls him back and says, oh no, he's over here now. He's out in this other area. So basically the police get sent on this wild goose chase. I'm not going to report on all of it, but they follow it all the way to the end and they don't find anyone or anything. The police went out of their way to check on this lead and there's nothing that fruitful that came of it. On May 26, 2010, the police went to Amargosa Valley, Nevada, following up on a tip from the Nye County Sheriff's Department. The deputy there at the Nye County Sheriff's Department stated that Stephen looked familiar and that Stephen may be at this place called the Horizon Academy. It's a Mormon church, kind of a youth center for troubled kids, and this place is no longer there. It doesn't exist anymore. But anyway, the police went out, they investigated the academy, they didn't find anyone or anything matching Stephen. No one there, when shown pictures of Stephen, stated that they had ever seen anyone that resembles Stephen Koecher. The police went over to a local dairy farm there and questioned the staff. No one there at the local dairy farm had ever seen or heard of Stephen Koecher. On July 10, 2010, a woman named Eva Hart contacted the Henderson Police Department after a local news channel ran a missing report on Stephen Koecher. Eva claimed that she saw someone who looked like Stephen sitting on a sidewalk out front of Carl's Jr. This Carl's Jr. is located at Eastern and Fremont Street. It's kind of in northeast Las Vegas. She said that she's 100% sure that this is Stephen. And the reason she's sure is because normally there's not a lot of white people that come in this area. The police went out there, they checked, they never found anything or anyone that resembled Stephen Koecher or any leads. Another sighting took place on December 16, 2010 at a Shopco located at 5800 South Redwood Road. This sighting was made by a police officer, last name is Bennett. The officer approached the Shopco owner and requested the surveillance footage. The footage was then shown to Deanne Koecher, who stated that she's 80% sure that this footage is not of Stephen. So this footage of Stephen at this Shopco is placed on a DVD, and the DVD is sent over to the Henderson Police Department. And when the Henderson Police Department go to play this DVD, it doesn't work. Something with the formatting, it just wouldn't play on their computer system. So the police just file it away in evidence. They don't seek out any forensic computer tech to try and extract this footage. I would love to see this footage released just for the sake of putting this claim that it's Stephen to bed. In my further research on 2260 evening lights, I discovered that Saverio DiMaggio and Marie DiMaggio had stopped making payments on their mortgage around the end of 2009. This would explain why they moved out of the 2260 evening lights 3-bedroom house into a 1-bedroom condo. Even though Saverio and Marie DiMaggio had moved out of 2260 evening lights, Mark Philip DiMaggio continued to stay there in the casita long after they had already gone. So we have several things stacked up against Mark DiMaggio here. After numerous attempts to get a hold of Mark DiMaggio, knocking on his door on several occasions, leaving flyers, leaving their business cards, and then actually going to Mark DiMaggio's parents' house and saying, hey, have him call us. He doesn't get back to them for several months, not until February 2010. So that's number one. Number two, when he finally does get back to them, he becomes nervous when asked about Stephen Koecher. He becomes evasive when asked about where he's actually staying. And then here we see him lying to the police when they talk about the casita. He says he's using it now and then, he's moved things out, but he's going to be moving back in soon. And we know this is a 100% lie because he knows Saverio and Marie DiMaggio have stopped paying the mortgage on this home. The home had a lien placed on it in May 2010 due to non-payment, and they defaulted a few months later. The house was eventually sold for $9,557. That's right, a 97% discount on the value of the home. This home was sold to the John Bede Trust, and it's further noted in the tax records that Bank of America filed a lawsuit against this John Bede Trust in order to try to get the property back. In my research on Mark DiMaggio, I was able to retrieve this photo of Mark from around the time of Stephen's disappearance. And I'm also going to show you some more updated photos that I've been able to locate as well. I've also discovered that Mark DiMaggio is currently residing in Grand Forks, North Dakota. I've reached out to several people that knew Mark DiMaggio many years ago. As of right now, they have not responded. I've reached out to several people that knew Brett Bishop around the time of Stephen's disappearance back in 2009. Unfortunately, the majority of those people have not responded. But one person did respond a week ago. And this person wishes to remain anonymous at this time, so I'm not going to tell you who I talked to. They told me that Brett Bishop always had prescription pills on him or around him. They went on to tell me that Brett Bishop was selling these pills. They heard about the Stephen Koecher disappearance case a year or two after Stephen went missing. And when they heard about this, they immediately suspected Brett Bishop had something to do with his disappearance. 2 weeks ago, I was able to get a hold of John Stringham. John Stringham was Stephen's neighbor back in 2009 when Stephen was staying at 1734 Maplewood Street in St. George. John Stringham lived directly across the street from Stephen at 1737 Maplewood Street. Reportedly, John is the neighbor that saw Stephen Koecher December 12, 2009 at night around 10 to 10:30 p.m. prior to Stephen going on this final journey down to the Henderson, Las Vegas area. If you recall, in my previous video, I talked about the St. George Police Department report where Deanne Koecher tells the police that she talked to Brett Bishop, and Brett Bishop had told her that a neighbor named John had seen Stephen on December 12, 2009 at around 10 to 10:30 p.m. and that this neighbor added that he had spoken with Stephen, and Stephen told him that he was going down to Las Vegas that night. So I was fortunate enough to get a hold of John, and I asked John, what did you see that night on December 12, 2009 at around 10 p.m.? And he stated almost verbatim what has been known in the community for over 10 years. He stated that at around 10 p.m. he saw Stephen pull in to the driveway, park, get out, go inside, and about 30 minutes later, roughly around 10:30 p.m., he saw Stephen exit the house, get in his car, and leave. And his exact words were, I never saw him again after that. So I asked John if he had spoken with Stephen that night on December 12th, 2009, and John stated he did not. So just to clarify, I asked John if he had ever had any type of conversations with Stephen about Stephen going to Las Vegas, and he stated no. He had never had any conversation with Stephen about going to Vegas. And he further added that Stephen was a very quiet person who kept to themselves. He would just see him come and go to the house from time to time, and he would never really interact with any of the other neighbors or go out into the neighborhood and do anything. So here we see some deception by Brett Bishop. Brett Bishop adds this information about the neighbor speaking with Stephen and Stephen telling him he's going to Las Vegas. Why Brett Bishop would add this information, I don't know. I've contacted the Henderson Police Department and I requested the following data to be released to me. I've requested a copy of the official AT&T detailed phone call log for Stephen Koecher's cell phone for the days of December 13th and December 14th, 2009. I requested all reports dealing with the longitude and latitude locations of Stephen Koecher's cell phone on December 13th and December 14th, 2009. I requested all reports dealing with the ping locations of Stephen Koecher's cell phone on December 13th and December 14th, 2009. I requested a copy of all emails sent or received on Stephen's personal computer from December 5th, 2009 through December 13th, 2009. I requested a copy of any and all surveillance footage related to the Stephen Koecher case be sent to me on either a DVD or be available for like a download. The Henderson Police Department got back to me a couple days after my request, and they stated that they would attempt to get me these things no later than February 23rd, 2021. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I'm not really expecting much. We'll see what happens. I also received a call back from Sergeant Adams, who is in charge of the Missing Persons Division there at the Henderson Police Department. The conversation was pretty much one-sided. It was just him listening to all the details and things that I've learned about this case since I started investigating it a couple of months ago. Thank you so much for checking out this update of the Stephen Koecher case. My own brother went missing in 2004 and has never been seen or heard from since. His disappearance has sent me down a path of investigating other missing persons cases. I believe Stephen was an extremely good person who got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time and met with foul play. If you have any information on the disappearance of Stephen Koecher, please contact me, the Unfound Podcast, or the Henderson Police Department. I am offering a personal reward of $2,000 for any information that would help lead to the discovery of what happened to Stephen Koecher. Thanks again for watching, and please subscribe for future updates on my further investigations into the disappearance of Stephen Koecher.